distinguished chairmanship of Dr. Tunde Lemma. Host, Dr. Christopher Kolade, CON. Special guest of honor, His Excellency, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Aigbuji Imokwede. Distinguished awardees, Mr. George Itomi, Major General Olatilewa Amusu, retired, Dr. John Momo, Dr. Stella Okoli, Dr. Mrs. E.J. Jidemma, Dr. Osage Okumbo, Dr. Bolaji Balogun, Mr. Rufai Osenit, Dr. Abiola Salami, Engineer Inine Karibo, the Heritage Iconic Posthumous Award. We honor the late Dr. Herbert Wigwe, High Chief O.B. Lulu Briggs, RSVP and inquiries. Kindly contact Lemuel Iyala. This event is strictly by invitation.
In further actualization of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR's renewed hope initiative in the housing sector, driven by architect Ahmed Dangiwa, the Honorable Minister of Housing Development, 1,000 families and businesses will be settled at Maitakobi Cottage, right in the 25-hectare Maitakobi Emirates project, sited within the 164 hectares Lekki Aviation Town. Maitakobi Emirates will provide affordable urban luxury homes for stakeholders in the transportation sector and beyond through a stress-free installment payment plan, covered under the Yaguda government-approved resettlement scheme with certificate of occupancy. Other facilities at the gated estate include good road network, efficient drainage system, top-notch security, including a 24-hour CCTV camera and power supply. Official flag off, July 2nd, 2024. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Venue, Lekki Aviation City, Lekki Ekpe Expressway, Ibeju, Lekki, Lagos. Guest of honor, Alhaji Dr. Musa Mohammed, Maitakobi 1, the National President, Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria. Chief host, Honorable Sahid Musadulua, Chairman, Harmony Gardens and Estates Development Limited. Unveiling of Maitakobi Emirate Housing Project. Be there.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. Today I'm Chamberlain Oso.
And a warm welcome to you as well. I'm Kayla Megwa.
It's the first day in the month of July. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde. And this is Lagos. One of those things and places that you look out for and you just know that you are in Lagos. This place is called Freedom Park. And so whenever you get any of those invitations that says, okay, it's Freedom Park, the venue is Freedom Park, this is the Freedom Park. It's a memorial and leisure park in the middle of downtown Lagos Island, which was actually Her Majesty, that's during the colonial era, it was Her Majesty's Broad Street Prison, you know, and it was constructed to preserve the history and cultural heritage of Nigerians. Because it has since moved from being a prison to Freedom Park, just so you understand what we are talking about here. It was built to commemorate the 50th anniversary independence in 2010, and it's a national memorial, a historical landmark, a cultural site, arts and recreation center, and it's just interesting. Because when it was a prison, this Freedom Park, when it was a prison, hosted some political activists who fought for Nigeria's independence. It's a serene abode for individuals and visitors, collective contemplation. So whenever you have any of those events and you just see that the venue is Freedom Park, it's on Lagos Island, it is no longer a prison, just for you to know. So when you go there, you're not going to a prison park, you're going to Freedom Park. Well, I'm sure, Chamberlain, you would remember, but hey, maybe we need to give Kayla some education here.
Well, it's just additional information. I actually know this place. We actually learned about this place in school because, you know, it has such a strong history. Some of the people who, at the time when it was a prison, it had Herbert Macaulay as an inmate in this place. Also had Anthony Nahoro, I beg your pardon, So Anthony Anahoro, Obafemi Awolowo, Michael Imodu. So these are some of the things that we actually studied. We heard about the fact that these people were inmates in this prison at some point. But now, you know, very historic part of Lagos. Now, Ayo, this is one of the places you're taking me to, okay? this I would go to. You know, it's a very lovely heritage. And something that a lot of people need to understand, that the independence that we enjoy today, some people went to jail for it.
Yeah.
You know, and this was one of the places where, you know, some of the people who paid the price for our independence had to stay, you know. So it's a very important historic part of Lagos, and a very informative one as well.
That's why Lagos is eternally vigilant, because, I mean, so the city never sleeps. But yes, indeed, lovely scenery, so enjoy that as much as you can. All right, so let's go ahead and take you through some of the dailies today. Ayo.
The Borno bombing is one of the major stories on the front pages of the papers this day, the 1st of July, 2024. The leadership newspaper has this one: Borno bomb attacks. Nigeria won't slide into era of fear, Tinubu vows. And the writer says, terrorists will pay heavy price. Let's not return to theater of terrorism, article warns. Northern governors, U.S. government condemn attacks. Death toll rises to 21 as security operatives arrest 2 female bombers. Front page of the Nigerian Tribune has the same story. Borno, Atiku, Obi, Flay bomb attacks. U.S. offers support. Tinubu assures citizens. Terrorists won't go unpunished. Tinubu, FG's failures will hold frontline responsible for attacks. According to Atiku, Nigerians must be unrelenting in demanding security. According to Obi, we will collaborate with FG to defeat terrorism, says the U.S. government. U.S. Mayor, Gwaza attack, last kick of a dying horse. Details of that story is on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. The Daily Times newspaper has the same story. Borno bomb attacks. Purveyors of wanton violence will pay heavy price. Tinubu says FG won't allow Nigeria to slither into era of fear, tears, sorrow, blood. NSGF condemns Gwaza suicide attack. Tinubu responsible for resurgence of terrorism in Northeast, says Atiku. Find details of that story on the front page, continues on the inside pages of the Daily Times newspaper this morning. The Blueprint newspaper has purveyors of Gwaza bomb attack will pay heavy price, Tinubu assures. Northern governors rally support. Ndume harps on God's grace. Atiku condemns attack, urges drastic action. That's the lead story of the paper on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper this morning. This Nigerian newspaper has Borno Day of Insanity, how teenage bombers killed pregnant women, children. Purveyors of wanton violence will pay a price, Tinubu vows. The details on page 4 of the paper this morning. Daily Trust has this one. Cybercrimes Act, despite amendment, clampdown on journalists persists. 25 reporters faced prosecution since 2015. Nigeria, one of West Africa's most dangerous places to practice. Police, FG, presidency, mum. You also find some graphics on the front page of a timeline of some of the arrests, detentions, and harassment of journalists on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. If you look at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, has this one: agony as FG's retirees groan under 230 billion naira pension arrears. No payment made for over a year. Legally binding upward review suspended for 15 years. Stakeholders call for boycott of government securities. Regular dialogue, pressure from labor required. As from PenUp, find the details of that story on page 20 of the paper. Of course, the Borno attack story is also right there above the nameplate. Tinubu vows to deal with perpetrators. And if you look at the front page of the Daily Independent this morning, has a different story altogether. Betting companies face integrity issues accused of harvesting users' data. Details continue on the inside pages. Look at the front page of the Nigerian News Direct. Unemployment crisis fuels crime. mental illness as Nigerians anticipate FG's annual 2.5 million jobs target. We need jobs, not empty promises. Frustrated graduates cry out. Fake recruitment agencies exploit desperate job seekers in Nigeria. It's a serious one, wouldn't you say? Stories on page 4 of the Nigerian News Direct this morning. The Abuja Inquirer has Trademore Estate inside a major tragedy waiting to happen. 1 year after being declared disaster zone, residents defy FCTA. Why our hands are tied? When Egieme, the details of that you'll find on the inside pages of the paper this morning. The front page of the New Telegraph has this one. Cholera spreads to Kirikiri Correctional Center, afflicts 25 inmates. Story you find on the inside pages this morning. The unfortunate bombing in Borno is also covered on the front page. Continues on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Look at the Guardian newspaper. Currency commoditization. Empty ATMs dot metropolis as banks trade cash with POS operators. Oh dear. Well, the story is on page 6. Find the details of what that means. The Goza story is also right there on the front page. Business Day newspaper. Nigeria's food crisis seen worsening as costs triple. It's the big story on the front page of the paper this morning. Country risks anger of the hungry. Planting season missed as rains peak. The details you'll find on the inside pages of the paper. And these are some of the papers we have for you today.
Well, the paper that catches my attention right away is the Daily Trust newspaper. You know, there's that popular saying, an injury to one is an injury to all. Well, there are diverse perspectives to it, but I believe that one thing that can be said is that the court is supposed to be the place where major issues or civil issues are treated, isn't it? Look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Cyber Crimes Act, despite amendment, clamp down on journalists persists. The front page of the Daily Trust also shows you some graphics that indicates that between October last year and June, just June that ended yesterday, 13 journalists have faced one kind of harassment or the other. The way that it is put on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper is arrests, detentions, and harassment of journalists. Well, we understand that so far the police, the federal government, and the presidency aren't saying anything. Is that suggesting that they are unaware? The authorities are unaware that these things are happening? Well, we know that the Minister of Information and National Orientation has said that there is no such thing, that under this government, that no journalist has been incarcerated. Well, maybe we need to check the meaning of incarcerated. Maybe there is a different meaning that we are not aware of, but the realities on the ground are very, very stark in our eyes. If these are to continue, will the journalists be able to do their jobs in a way that the Constitution preserves for them to do their jobs? Or should journalists have reasons to be afraid? Are we not going back to those days, the Abacha days that so many people still cringe just to remember? Are we going back to the military days, or are we just going to stay where we are right now and continue to relish the fact that we are doing better and we can do better? Just one of my takes this morning, and I am hoping that whoever the authorities are will pay attention to this. I'm sure you feel the same way, Chamberlain and Kayla.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we do. In fact, that is what we're going to talk about, because these numbers are worrisome. There has to be some kind of balance. You know, we get the idea that, many people can be irresponsible. There are people who can be irresponsible with the freedoms that we have. But the freedom of expression needs to be understood by security agencies and Nigerians. Because these clampdowns, 10 journalists in the past 1 year. And look at the Daily Trust newspaper this morning took pages 4 and 5 to talk about this. Cyber stalking, defamation of character, petitions filed against journalists, complaints from a prominent business person or a politician, defamatory publication, incidental to a story over alleged defamation against chief of staff and the president, Femi Gbajabiamila. We're seeing arrests over coverage of raids on Bureau de Change operators in Abuja. You know, criminal conspiracy, cyber stalking, injurious falsehood, investigations of FCT mass transport schemes. So there's specific things that have happened that have led to these arrests. There has to be some kind of way of teaching people responsibility. The clampdown is not exactly very encouraging. And like Ayo said, it's reminding us of an era when we couldn't express ourselves. Yes, there are lots of people that need to understand discipline, proper reporting. They need to be able to, know how to navigate those lines. But clampdowns like these ones are responsible for the era that we are coming from, and we do not want to see a repeat of those times ever again. So this is something that needs to be really looked at. That freedom needs to be protected, and we need to have journalists able to do their jobs without being afraid of being arrested.
Well, yeah, equally weighing in on that, because if you look at that story, it says, despite amendments, that's the, the operative word there. Yes, look at that now. Clamp down on journalists, because if they're relying on this Cybercrime Act, it's really funny, because first of all, that story also tells you, because those specific stories and those specific investigative stories and reports that were published are very, very, there are things that we shouldn't take our eye off. So I think journalists should do a lot more of digging into all of these things and exposing a lot more of those things. So those arrests and invitations suggests that, who knows, they might be doing something, at least hitting some things right. But the one of those issues highlighted there happens to be the arrest, I think, Daniel Ojukwu, who was held from May 1 to May 10. Even the law says if you can't hold him for longer than 24 hours.
So what is this?
And if you don't have a court decision or court injunction, you can't hold them for that long. So on what basis do they keep them there? Mr. Fadana also goes on to say that particular law that the authorities are relying on has been... The court has actually directed that government go ahead and amend that part, because it has to conform to Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution. So he clearly stated that the court has directed federal government to amend that section to make the law again conform to the Constitution, Section 39 and Article 9. Don't forget that, of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So what are they relying on then to keep carrying on those arrests and incarcerating people? So if people feel hard done by, that you've been defamed, go to court. The courts are the places where those decisions are taken. The courts are not the police. So the police themselves, no one is immune to any arrest whatsoever. If you're found guilty, of course you can be. But I think maybe some journalists should even try and see how they can sue the authorities, whoever carries out this arrest, if they violate the laws. And they too are not immune to challenge decisions in the courts.
They can be challenged.
So they should be. They should be.
But that freedom to do our job as journalists, that freedom to do it has to be protected. I mean, it's a fine line. Many people in security agencies and many even Nigerians may be hungover from the era where you could just call your friends from the police and they'll pick up somebody. So this person did this to me, this person did that to me. But there's a change. Our country has changed. Our people have changed. The way we do things have changed. Everybody has to get on board. We cannot take this particular freedom cannot be toyed with, or we will slide back into an era we do not want to be in. Even
the law says it, that the freedom, in quote, is not absolute. You have to be factual in your reportage and publications, yes. So if people feel defamed, as is also stipulated there are avenues to go and challenge all of that. So the law is clear. It's not a banana republic where you arrest somebody and hold them from May 1 to 10 or even longer in some cases. That itself is a violation if they did not have any express permission from the courts or decisions to hold them for that long. that is a clear violation where those kind of scenarios happen. So I think that's a very, very clear case in point. All right, so that said, some of the issues that we expect to unfold today here in Abuja happens to be, I think the minister spoke about this several times, bus terminal. Oh, okay. I was like, oh, is it happening already?
Yes, it is.
Today?
Yes, it is. Mabushi, I'm excited about this one. We all are. Oh. We all are excited about this one. So the Mabushi bus terminal flag-off ceremony is going to be today. The minister's going to be there. Of course, we are going to be there as well. I think we're taking it live here on Channels TV as well.
I think ultimately is to ensure that, this when people enter vehicles from the roads, and then I think they called it one chance. So this is part of what they want to address, so that whatever vehicle you're getting into is properly designated, it's got an address, so to speak, so no stranger just picks you off and takes you to where you don't know. So they intend to address it with scenarios like this.
Yes, indeed. And of course, that education is, I'm just going to reiterate the education that you just gave right now, which is the fact that people have to know that you are responsible for your safety in many ways. When it comes to this one chance operators, yes, the CP in Abuja is doing a lot with clamping up, but you also have to be careful as a person. Use particular cars, make sure you check, make sure you put your safety first. So yes, that infrastructure development is one that we've been looking forward to. The Mabushi bus terminal flag-off ceremony will be happening today. Also happening today, I think we do have some other summits that will be happening today. Oil and gas has been in the news. In fact, there's a lot of conversations about this sector till the 4th, till the 4th of July. We will be having so many things said. But the Nigeria Oil and Gas Summit will be holding, and of course we'll be there to cover it just to see what directions we're moving in. There's a report that talks about how our plans in this sector could cost us a lot of trouble. And that's something that is going to be discussed at this summit. In the coming days, of course, you'll be seeing a lot of that unfold. But stay with us so you can understand what's going on in our oil and gas sector and what areas this summit seeks to address.
And, well, NOG is business matter, and business this morning, I'm pretty sure, is one of those issues that are going to come to play. But this is the focus today, a review of Naira performance in the first half of 2024. Today is the first day in the second half of the year 2024. How have we fared? How's the Naira fared in the first 6 months? That's what you will get details of. You're in Business Morning on Sunrise Daily this morning.
The Honorable Minister, Federal Capital Territory, His Excellency Barrister Ezenwe Yesenwike, CON, and the Honorable Minister of State, Dr. Maria Mahmoud, heartily invites FCT residents to groundbreaking ceremonies and flag-off of the following projects in the FCT. Mabushi Bus Terminal, Monday, July 1, 2024, 11 a.m. at Mabushi. Kubo Bus Terminal, Tuesday, July 2, 11 a.m. at Kubo. Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal Complex, Akibiu, Abuja, Wednesday, July 3, 11 a.m. and Kwaitayebu Road in Kwali Area Council, Thursday, July 4, 2024, 11 a.m. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Senator Godswill Akpabio, CON, Senate President, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, CON, Speaker House of Representatives, and Chief Justice of the Federation, Honorable Justice Olukayode Ariola, GCON, FCT Administration, driving Mr. President's renewed hope agenda.
It's not a normal day for the Accident and Emergency Unit of the State Specialist Hospital, Maiduguri, Borno State. They have to attend to victims of multiple suicide bombings with varying traumatic injuries, all inflicted by multiple explosions. First at a wedding ceremony in Goza, and then another inside the town. Who feels it, knows it. As these victims are in so much pain, they lack the energy to cry. Undeterred by the number of the injured and extent of the injury, the hospital personnel are hands-on to ensure that they receive urgent medical treatment.
As you can see, we brought about 31 victims of this bomb blast. We brought some yesterday, just about 12, who are not, they are still on that treatment, who are not yet verified to be well. And they brought that one, but there was a curfew yesterday to this effect. But as of now, I think the situation is very tense because they are just discovering some of the victims affected. Now, as of yesterday, most of these victims were not known to be affected because they thought it was only maybe a few injuries. So maybe first aid treatments will take care of some of these cases. But as we can see, it is very severe. So we just hope they will get well.
These victims can't speak as the pains are excruciating, but the secretary of the local government shares what she knows about the bombing.
We can't say exactly how it happened because it was just all of the clues, from a wedding. There was a wedding, and at the wedding, the first bomb blast exploded. And after that explosion, in the course of the burials and packing of the corpses, the second bomb blast, bomb exploded. And there was another one at a distance. That is all in the same street, but at a distance.
Some unanswered questions still hang in the air. The coming days will bring more clarity as a more comprehensive death toll, as well as updates of the injured, will hopefully emerge.
Well, the bombing in Goza, where at least 18 people, I think we understand that the fatality numbers have since increased to about 21 or thereabouts, and 30 injured in a series of deadly blasts suspected to have been carried out by female suicide bombers is our first take this morning. Those of you who have been following the news would remember that Borno State has been at the center of a 15-year insurgency by militants, which has displaced more than 2 million people and killed more than 40,000. Now, let's begin this conversation this morning with the Commissioner for Information and Internal Security in Borno. But before that, Chamberlain.
Well, yes, thank you, Ayo. We've got Elder Ayuba Bassa, who is the National Coordinator, Goza Christian Community. He joins us here in the studios. We'll also come to Prof. Good morning, Elder. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning.
Now, I'm sure that you are in touch with your community there.
Of course.
So tell us, what can you tell us about what happened and what the current situation is at the moment?
It was really a black Saturday. It has affected Goza to the blood. What happened was the infiltration of trained women, including a teenager, as suicide bombers. And they were able to come to carry out a mission. We have learned that there are above 30 who were trained to do that, but few of them succeeded.
More than 30?
Yes, who were trained. And
are they all women or men and women?
Women, because it's the easiest way of infiltrating people. Man, if you dress in a questionable manner, you can easily be dictated. But and then women are easy target most of the time because you can't find them. They don't even know the joy of the world. So they are enclave, not seeing anything good. So they tend to see their life as not much that important as men who were roaming up and down, going to see the towns, hopeful of getting more money, building houses, getting women again to marry. Most of them are not easy targets as suicide bombers, but those women are there in a cave, illiterate, knows nothing. Ask them to write their name, they cannot write their name. That girl, teenager, doesn't know, she has never attended primary 1 in her life. So it's easy, their brain is empty. Whatever you put in there, they believe it.
Well, Elder, how did you get the info that they train about over 30 or so?
It's very easy to get that information from a lot of sources. These people, most of them live close to the community. I once said that if the IDP camps are not dismissed, it will continue to be a breeding ground again for more Boko Harams.
I want to be able to talk to you about them because the issue has brought up the problem of these super camps. Because yes. what happened was that they took away a lot of the formations in the local camps and then moved them to these super camps. And there's a report that basically says since the creation of these super camps, local communities have been more vulnerable to attacks. And just so that we can talk a little bit about those women, the report, those 30-plus women who we heard were sent to do these attacks came in from Pulka and the Mandara Mountains around that area. And then there was one that they said was detonated at a checkpoint while they were investigating her. Yeah. Talk to me about the security in Goza, because this is not the first time. This has been going on for a very long time. What happened to the security around Pulka, Mandara Mountains? How were they able to come into Goza fully? 30 women. And we haven't caught 25 yet.
Yes. Mandara Mountain has been their breeding ground for a long time, and they were able to dislodge every village and hamlet on that mountain, because that mountain hosts most the population, more than half of the population of Goza. But it is now empty. The people that are there are Boko Haram. Up to now, they are Boko Haram. Only Boko Haram lives on that mountain. And then...
So how is this... What happened to security in that area? Because everyone knows this.
They are always under a kind of trade. I don't know. Sometimes political will given to them we are being hijacked. You know, Boko Haram are in 3 stages, 3 classes. First class are our political elites. Second class are the Boko Haram leaders who both have the political and the religious. They use religions to deceive those third class who are their soldiers, who doesn't know anything. And then they use politics to come to politicians to gain more ground. And you know, that's how they operate. So these ones in the middle have both politics and religion. Those ones down, only religion, nothing education, nothing politics. The ones up are pure politicians. That's how they operate.
Elder, how do members, people in that community, how do you live with this knowledge that, look, you could be infiltrated at any point in time, lives could be lost at any time? How do they manage that?
Somebody, when you talk, it's like no one is hearing. Those camps that we talk about, you will find a Boko Haram woman who supposedly, being rescued. She has been there in the camp for 7 years, giving birth to extra 3 children without a father. The father is in the bush, is a Boko Haram member. In the night, she will, in the name of going to look for wood, she will go and meet with her husband to take another child. This is a breeding ground. She is breeding up offspring again to him or for him.
What about government? What are they doing? Do you think they're doing enough on this matter? Both state governments in this time, first of all.
Chamberlain, whatever you did not take it as it is and deal with it as it is, once you mix it up with religion and politics, that government will not even succeed, because even the government itself are mixing things up.
Let's hear from a member of government. He's the Commissioner for Information in Borno State, Professor Usman Tawa. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, it's a very tough one for particularly families, even residents of those areas who perhaps don't know what to expect tomorrow. So tell us, for you, government, what's going on? How come governments couldn't nip this in the bud?
Thank you very much. Borno State has been undergoing insurgency and counterinsurgency since 2009. There were moments of utter devastations, and there were moments of relative success. For the past 7 years, 6 to 7 years, there has been some degree of success in nipping the problem in the bud. In the first instance, we have the kinetic operations, that is the counterinsurgency operations being manned by the armed forces and other security agencies, putting boots on the ground, carrying out intelligence operations, and taking the battle to the adversary and pushing them to tight corners. This is the first, and it has achieved a lot of success. Not, final success, but it has led to the, attempt to surrender by the adversary. On the other hand, we have the non-kinetic operation. That is investment in psychological operations, investment in hearts and minds, and, reaching out to the adversary, offering them the olive branch to surrender unconditionally in return for rehabilitation. The Borno model for peace, reconciliation, and development, which used to be the Borno model for mass exit of terrorists, has so far succeeded in bringing out of the woods, out of the forests, over 160,000 persons, most of whom are innocent people that were trapped in the lines of battle. Of this number, about 5,000 are carriers of arms. They are militants, which in the final analysis were classified into high risk and low risk militants. The Hajj camp in Maiduguri, which is the temporary site for the rehabilitation, has so far succeeded in rehabilitating some of these returnees. And the model is very simple. It's community owned, it's locally owned by the state without prejudice to the federal DDRR program. And we are working very closely with the federal government in order to align the Borno model with the federal government's DDRR program. The model is very simple. Any group of terrorists, any individual or group of terrorists and their families who are willing to surrender, call a hotline, and they are directed to the nearest military formation. The military takes charge, the military profiles them in the first instance, and the Borno State government provides transportation to the camp, where they undergo series of rehabilitation, de-indoctrination, civil education, categorization, profiling, where a lot of intelligence is teased out of them. Those that were eventually cleared, the communities are invited, across the board, communities are invited to come and identify those that they are willing to take back home. And they come with their drums and they pick the ones that they are willing, those that they think are innocent or low risk, and they take them home. And so far it has proved very, very successful because of that local ownership. Is it a perfect program? No. The model came out of trial and error, and we have a lot of challenges, but we have largely overcome those challenges, and we are still working with the relevant agencies and our global and local partners in order to fine-tune the model so that it works for the people. It is very much like the Rwanda Gachacha model. Actually, we have had series of consultations with our global partners, including experts from Rwanda, and we have learned from Cambodia. We've learned from all over the world in order to perfect the Borno model. We are still working. It's a work in progress, but so far, so good. A lot of the terrorists have actually, surrendered. But we still have some more. Pardon?
Prof, it's interesting. Hello, Prof. It's interesting.
Yes.
We're talking about the security situation
Okay.
in Borno and the lapses that led these terrorists to be able to infiltrate a wedding, a funeral, a hospital. And interesting that you're bringing up the situation of repentant Boko Haram terrorists. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
You said just now it's not a perfect model.
Yes.
When they come back, what happens to them afterwards? You do a rehabilitation program, and then after a while we hear that they are reintegrated into the society. What happens afterwards? Are they being monitored?
Yes. It's not all of them that are integrated back to society. The high risk, they continue to be detained in the camp for further necessary action. Remember that terrorism is a federal crime. The ones that are low risk and the innocent farmers, they are rehabilitated. They undergo screening, categorization, which involves biometric data capture for continued surveillance even after they have been released. It includes the indoctrination training.
Not to cut you off, sorry to butt in here, but we are talking about the low risk, okay? We understand that the high risk ones will have to face the law and whatnot. But how do you determine the level of brainwashing? How do you determine the level of someone's, ability to change, or how much information on how much it's brainwashing? Really can't put another word there. But how do we determine how much brainwashing has happened to somebody that you are terming low risk? There's also the situation, and I talked about it earlier, about super camps and what that has done to local communities like Goza and, of course, Polka and the Mandara Mountains, where we're hearing that a lot of these terrorists came in from. What's happening to security at those local levels as well?
Thank you very much. The low risk are determined in terms of their culpability. For instance, child soldiers that were indoctrinated and conscripted under duress. They, at the time of their, capture by the terrorists, they were, minors, and when they return back, it is very difficult to, pinpoint at them as, as terrorists per se. So they are considered low risk. But let me say this: we have experts in intelligence, in psychology, and so on, that profile these returnees. So, and there is a benchmark that they use, globally acceptable benchmark that they use to determine the level of risk. As for the super camps, I think you are referring to IDP camps that are yet to be decommissioned. The Borno State government has taken a formal decision to decommission all the IDP camps and return the people back to their villages and towns, starting with Maiduguri. Maiduguri used to have over, a number of IDP camps, big camps. Those camps have all been decommissioned with the exception of few informal camps. And going forward, the camps in the villages will also be decommissioned and people will be returned back to their enclaves. And the standard operating procedure is to deploy military forces and civilian JTF to excavate the villages to be resettled, after which the people will be resettled, and the excavation is to a radius of 5 kilometers in the first instance around the villages. And if the population increases, then the excavation, the paraphase will also be expanded to like 10 kilometers. That is the SOP that we are using to resettle all the villages and towns. So the so-called super camps and so on, we are working very hard to decommission them.
Prof, I'd love to take you on some of the issues raised earlier with our guest in Abuja, but let me first of all ask him a number of questions, if he agrees with some of the things that you have said, to us this morning on this program, because they sound quite lofty and interesting. So, Mr. Bassa, let me come to you. All of the issues that you have raised, particularly, let's begin with how convinced you are about the comments of the Commissioner for Information and Internal Security. How assured are you? How assuring does it sound both to you and to the people? As he said, it's been 15 years.
They sound so sweet to the listening ears, but it's not the reality of issues. When you are at that hot point, somebody like me who missed, I just lost a very close friend in the bomb on that Saturday, and also an in-law who lost his limbs in this incident. And my village, paternal and maternal, hosts the Boko Harams up to now on the Mandara Mountain. We've been crying, clear these people, clear these people. They're always sending trade. No one is listening. So as sweet as that may be, it doesn't hold water. Clear the camp. They don't listen. Someone is benefiting. The only way to deal with this, one of the class out of the 3 classes has to be dismantled. Either the first class, that is the politicians that are supporting these people, or the second class, the Boko Haram leaders, or the third class. The third class is just talking about the third class, but they couldn't do anything about them. They are being recruited every day. You pack 1,000 today, another 1,000 will join them the next day. So one of this class has to be dismantled completely to be able to find a track of dealing with Boko Haram.
Sometimes,
that's all I can say about this.
Mr. Bassa, sometimes, I mean, we hear stuff about, security, particularly this bombing situation that we're talking about. And some other times it will seem like, okay, everything is okay now. Now, do you think what happened that we're talking about now, where we've had more than 20 fatalities, is this something we saw coming, or was it just something that happened on us suddenly?
We always saw it coming. We always saw it coming. And people have been making noise. We know they are being breathed in the camps. We know where the hamlets where they live. We know, we send messages, we speak about it. We do a lot of things, but no one is hearing. Those 3 classes know what they are doing exactly. In fact, there are some horrible experiences that none of them we could trust. We cannot trust armies. We cannot trust civilian JTF. We cannot trust anybody who stands in the name of politics that is willing to fight for these people anymore. Because whatever you choose is not going to work. It is what they choose. Whatever you say is not going to work. It is what they think it works. Someone doesn't know the pain, doesn't know what is happening, would be determining the solution for you. And that doesn't work. We continue to suffer, to go back and front, and it will not cease unless we begin to listen and take proper action on how to deal with this thing.
Well, Prof, you heard Mr. Bassa, and one can say he's one of those people that could help the government to deal with this issue, Prof. So let's see, what's your take? How do you respond to the issues that he has raised, particularly the part where he mentioned that a class of people that are responsible for this insecurity being pervaded, they are politicians?
A professor of political science, I can tell you that all these classes that he mentioned are theoretical. When you are in the domain of politics, you will see your viewpoint will be quite different from the viewpoint of a bystander. And I respect the gentleman, and I commiserate with him over the death of his relatives. We are all affected. Borno is a closely knit community. We are all, married to each other, across the board. So to, delineate or to create imaginary boundaries doesn't hold water. The classes that he's talking about is also very theoretical. Practically, the Borno State Executive Council, in the council, we have all, representatives of all the local government areas. The Borno State House of Assembly has representative from each of the local government areas. So, there are people from his areas that are represented in government. And the government, when it takes decision, it's a collective decision. Now, to say there is a class that is detached from this and that, I think is very, very theoretical. That's it. From a practical point of view, I can tell you that I am a member of the Borno State Security Council. The council sits every month and takes reports from military units formation, from villages, from traditional rulers, from, associations on the security situation on the ground. I'm not talking about someone sitting in Abuja and doing analysis. I'm talking about the receiving reports on the ground on a real-time basis. And the State Security Council takes decision. And the council is People's Council. The council are
so, Prof, on that,
traditional rulers.
Jumping in on this, if you can hear me,
security
my
chiefs,
sincere apologies for butting in.
All sorts of people are represented
just a second,
in the council.
On that, if we are aware that these things would happen, my sincere apologies for butting in. If we, just as you said, government receives these information, these security reports and all of that. If we were aware, if we have all of these reports, did we see this coming? Did we see this attack coming? Did we see these fatalities coming? Did you get intelligence that this was going to happen, and could it have been avoided so that we don't lose the people? Mr. Bassa, for instance, believes that everyone saw it coming. Did the government saw it coming? Did the government see it coming? Could it have been avoided? And what happened?
Thank you. Well, you don't rule out attack in a situation like this. But I can tell you that each military unit, each formation does its own threat assessment and takes decision. And in doing so, we refer to each other. And there is a pool. There is a pool where we speak to each other. If we had seen this particular one coming, we would have taken preemptive action. Probably the attackers were smuggled into Goza. They did not come through the normal checkpoints. And this is quite possible. So, yes, the risk was there, but we are not very sure about who was going to carry out the attack and so on and so forth.
Could we say then that there was intelligence failure?
Action.
Can we say that there was intelligence failure if we didn't see it coming, if government didn't see it coming?
No, there is no intelligence failure. The intelligence institutions are doing their best. They are providing projections all the time. And as soon as they provide projection, we take action. We deploy to areas of fault lines.
But you just said now
But as you know, the terrorists will always look for opportunity to attack.
But
this is a global
said now,
SOP
Prof,
for terrorists.
That they used a different route from what was expected.
Yes, probably.
So that is what some people will call intelligence failure.
It's not intelligence failure. It's an error that we did not see coming. If terrorists want to attack, they want to follow a particular route which you don't know, what can you do? As you know, our boundaries are porous. That is international. Even our local boundaries are porous, in spite of the fact that we do have excavate and so on. But the terrorists, if terrorists want to attack, they do that attack using default lines, and that was probably what happened.
Well, Mr. Bassa, let me come back to you in our Abuja studio. So this is his own position. This is the government's position on this matter, that it was something that happened that they didn't see coming, and that if they knew that it was going to happen, that they could have taken proactive steps to make sure it doesn't happen. What's your response to that?
Yeah, it's so pathetic. This is a prof we're talking about. You see how people are being, used like a remote control. He is speaking the minds of his bosses upstairs. He doesn't want to say the truth, and he knows the truth. If he says otherwise, he will be blamed, actually. He said, I'm here in Abuja, relaxing or doing something. Prof, I happen to be the second person in the whole of Goza to build a high-rise building. My building was burnt. My uncle used it because he was a Boko Haram member, and it was later burnt. And in front of my house, 4 of my relations were shot, dead, killed by a relation of mine who was a Boko Haram member also. 5 of my uncles were slaughtered because they are Shiite. In belief as a Muslims. They were slaughtered in abattoir. So I could feel the pain, and then you are just sitting there as a prof, as a researcher, who will say probably also, but categorically you say no. You are supporting the intelligence issue that there is no any. No, I cannot do that. I'm not a kid. You have to come out of your shell and say the truth. Please, that is the best I can.
Is government? You clearly think that government has information or they don't have information about what's going on?
Chamberlain, government knows each Boko Haram leader, knows them by name, knows where to find them, can invite them, and all of them will come.
How do you say this for sure?
I had some terrible experience that revealing it on national TV sometimes may seem somehow. 4 of my elders were arrested, by Boko Haram, what do you call civilian JTF. The civilian JTF during Shetima were inaugurated, and they visited one of my hometown called Barawa in the name of going to capture some people that are helping military. So those they were captured, they were beaten to pulp, brought to the camp of the army, that these are Boko Haram. Army said, no, we know them. They are not Boko Haram. We won't shoot them. At the end of the day, army now say, okay, women, we will release them tomorrow. Women fellowship were there, these are our children. Say, we don't know. Former vice president was vice chairman of the local government. Baba Musa Barawa is my uncle. Was there. He said, no, I have been the former vice chairman of the local government. Please release them. We know them. Including him, 4 of them up to now, we don't know where they are. For the past 7 years, we've been looking for them. So we have a terrible experiences with regard to this.
Well, we'll come back to you. But Prof, we have to go. Just quickly give us your quick response to what Elder Iba has said.
Thank you very much. The gentleman, I respect him. We are all citizens of the same state. We are all affected by this insurgency, all of us. I also lost relatives as a result of the insurgency. We are all victims of this insurgency. Any binary classification is theoretical. That is what I meant. And if he is offended by this, my comment, I tender my apology. But we are all victims. We face the same existential threat. We have to come together in order to face this callous enemy. And when I speak, I am not speaking to please anyone. I am speaking the fact. I am a professor of defense and security studies. There is no reason for me to speak to please anyone. I am saying the fact. If your fact differs from mine, please just accept it, and I respect your opinion too. But we all agree that we are dealing with a common enemy, and we have to work together to do that.
All right, Professor Osman Tah, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I wish we had more time to talk to him, because there's a lot that he needs to clarify. We talked about those, because you see, in all of this, the security, there was a breach. And this security at local levels is one that needs to be looked at, which is where the issue of because he stayed talking about IDP camps. We weren't talking about IDP camps. We're talking about military formations in local government areas, in local places. And that's something that I wanted to get your thoughts on. What's the security like? How was it so porous that they were able to infiltrate and come into a wedding inside Goza? What failed in your view?
My sister, camp becomes a feeding ground for most of the politicians. Without camp, they will not find it, as a lucrative means of making money. They support whatever comes into the camp, as long as people will remain there and supplies will be given through them, and that the training, whatever that is happening within the camp, no one checks anybody. The security men are just by the gate. Whatever that is happening there, they could be training people, they could be doing whatever they want to do there. No one will say, why are you doing this? No. At the end, they will say, no, we are practicing our religion. You just keep quiet. How dare will you go near to somebody's wife? No, don't go there. Remain at the gate. So whatever they do there,
What's the situation now in Goza? You've been in contact with your family.
Of course.
What's the security situation? Because there's a lockdown in place right now.
Yes.
How is everyone handling that? Because we've seen lockdowns in Goza before.
Of course.
And it didn't change anything.
Of course. People are at home, but not finding it easy, actually. One, they are not sure whether being at home is safe also, because these people can go out and no one could see how they move. They can still go to anywhere they want to go and still infiltrate anywhere they want to infiltrate, but the only thing is that they won't find high gathering, and that's all. But they could kill families or targets. They are being sent on a mission.
So for you, the camps have got to be dismantled completely as a first step?
Of course. And then the Mandara Mountain. If you can dismantle these two, clear all the villages, the Goza East, allow these people that troop into this camp to go back to their respective areas, and then put securities in those villages. That will solve the problem.
Elder Yuba Basa is the National Coordinator, Goza Christian Community Association. Thank you for coming on, and we commiserate with you and all of those who lost lives in that unfortunate incident.
Thank you very much.
Well, Business Morning on Sunrise Daily comes up now.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, hello and welcome to the first trading day of the third quarter and the second half of 2024. It's also the first trading day for the month of July. 3 firsts right now. But let's get to the top stories that set your agenda. Starting with oil prices, they climbed this morning, supported by a deficit stemming from peak summer fuel consumption and OPEC Plus cuts in the third quarter, although global economic headwinds capped the gains today, holding Brent at $85.62 a barrel, then up 0.71%. Big jump there for Brent. And we also see WTI. That's also staying comfortably above that $80 psychological level, $82.18. Also up, a bigger move up there, 0.77%. That's what we have for WTI. We see both contracts are down for about 6% for the month of June. To the FX market now, after breaching the 1,500 level, we're seeing gains for the last trading day of June, 1,505 Naira. That's for NAFEM, a 0.32% gain at the official window. NAFEX, bigger move up there, 1,488 Naira, so a big 1.72% gain. That's what we have for NAFEX. So last trading day of June turned out right, but the first half, definitely we see the Naira down about 40%. For the first half of 2024. We'll see what the second half of 2024 portends for the Naira. Then to other stories now, the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises has commended the recent executive order removing import duties, VAT, excise duty on pharmaceutical products and intermediate products. In a statement, the CEO of the economic think tank, Dr. Muda Yusuf, says the fiscal policy measures would boost domestic production of pharmaceutical products, reduce the cost of medications, and impact positively on the well-being of citizens. He explained that the use of such fiscal policy measures are very appropriate to boost real sector performance, as it will also revitalize the country's pharmaceutical industries and create more jobs. The CPB chief also recommends that similar fiscal policy incentives should be extended to other real sector investments to boost the economy. And the newly sworn-in president and chairman of the governing council of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, Mr. Oluwapo Dada, has keyed into the vision of the President Tinubu-led administration to grow Nigeria's economy to a $1 trillion economy. Mr. Dada was speaking after he was sworn in as the 13th president, believes that the government can raise as much as $500 billion through the capital market. However, there are steps that must be taken to deepen the domestic economy. Take a listen.
The federal government of Nigeria, under the leadership of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, articulated its vision of attaining $1 trillion economy during his tenure. To do this, the economy must attain a double-digit growth in gross domestic product. I strongly believe that these objectives are attainable. However, in doing this, two crucial steps should be taken. First, the government must create the enabling environment based on universally accepted ease of doing business metrics. In this regard, three areas must be highlighted. Number one is the rule of law. Number two is infrastructure. And number three is technology. It is of great concern that the size of the informal sector is so large in Nigeria. The implication is that a lot of tax revenue that should ordinarily go to government is lost, while the mechanism for implementing monetary and other strategic government policy is significantly weakened. It is therefore imperative that the size of the informal sector in Nigeria be substantially reduced if we are to attain the objective of accelerated GDP growth.
Now to our first conversation, we see the first half of 2024, the Nigerian currency depreciated by nearly 40%. Besides the Naira, we also see the Egyptian pound and the Ghana cedi. They're also among the worst performers in the first 6 months of the year. Meanwhile, the Kenyan shilling there, that shined about 20.7%, ranking as the best performer. And there's also the issue of the proposal to amend the CBN Act. How will this impact the long-term performance of the Naira and economic stability if the CBN Act, Amendment Act proposal becomes law? Joining us for this conversation is Ogbonna Ukuku, is investment and economic development expert, joining us from our Abuja studio. Great to have you on the show. Happy new month. Happy first day of the second half, and happy first day of the third quarter.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Right. So looking at some of the major currencies in Africa, it was quite tough. That was the first half of 2024. How are you seeing this, and what is this telling us about African currency weakness, at this time with geopolitical turmoil?
Generally speaking, African countries must, it just tells the story of the African economies. So what it shows is that we have to pay attention on being productive, and then again being able to depend more on locally made goods, and then have enough to give to the outside world. Because if we don't export, if you don't have what to export, you won't actually have dollars in your economy, because you can't print dollar, you can only earn dollars. So if you don't have what to give to the world to earn dollar, you would definitely depend on FX, which, for you to import the things that you need. So our basic needs at this point, we need to actually rejig our taste gland, or we begin to curb our appetite, to face more on things that we can't produce locally, and then be able to show up some of this trade imbalance that exists between Africa and other countries.
Quite turbulent for these currencies. What are you expecting for the second half of 2024 for the Naira especially? Is there some kind of soft landing we can expect for the Naira in the second half?
What do I expect? So the direction the central bank is going, yes, it's good. Interventions are good, because the more they continue to intervene, the more they will support the FX market. So, but having said that, I expect additional interventions as regards when it comes to long term, looking at things like supporting the productive sector, supporting raw material supply, supporting interventions that will go directly to manufacturers. I think with that in place, and many more on having a well-structured financial engineering that would help to reduce the cost of production, I think that would definitely go a long way in helping us come out of this turmoil.
And talking about the central bank, especially the Central Bank of Nigeria, we see that controversy trailing the CBN Act amendment bill there. Some say that it will undermine the autonomy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, but the proponents say that it's merely to allow the CBN and the Ministry of Finance work together. So talk to me, if this amendment becomes law, what's the worst that could happen?
Okay, so for me to answer your question, it would be very good for our viewers to understand that just like you have 3 tiers of government when it comes to governance or when you want to deliver government, they are all working towards the same direction, but they are all autonomous. And then you have, the 3 arms of government working towards the same goal, but operating from different angles. It's the same way when it comes to the economic stance. The policy, the monetary policy and fiscal policy must work independently, but have a convergence. I always give this very simple illustration, still very instructive, while it looks as if you're not saying you're not being very serious. You see the way soccer game is, the fiscal policy managers are like the strikers, and then the monetary policy managers are like the defenders. So the victory of any team is dependent more on what the strikers do than what the defenders do. So if you merge them all together, there's going to be a confusion because you can't have someone who's defending striking at the same time. So it brings this confusion, and at the end of the day, you will not be able to succeed. So nations of the world have started paying attention to corporate governance when it comes to the leadership of their central bank. But you see, I give you a very simple example. In 2012, in England, they appointed a Canadian to be the head of their central bank. So what that means is that the attention they pay to monetary policy stance is so crucial that they had to even go outside their sphere to go somewhere, another man's country, to get someone to head their central bank because of the kind of job that the Canadian central bank governor did in his country. So what that means is more about paying attention to the corporate governance structure of your central bank, not creating laws around bringing them together. No, you can't bring them together. They must be autonomous. They must do their job, and they do it separately. But like I said, there has to be that place of confluence. I like what the South African government does when it comes to recruitment. So before you become a central bank governor, yes, the president appoints maybe I think about 8. There are 15 of them. The president appoints 8 of them. Then the other appointments will come from stakeholders. Stakeholders in the sense that they must be experts in agriculture. You must have someone who's an expert in mining because their economy is, has a lot of mining. They do a lot of mining. Then someone who has expertise, or 2 of them will have expertise in commerce and industry. So these are things we must pay attention to. You see, in Nigeria, the kind of things we pay attention to is we have the board, you have people representing Southeast, Southwest. No, those are not the kind of things. Because when it comes to, driving economy, because you don't win economic wars, just like every conventional war, you win by strategy. It's not by strength alone. You win by strategy. So the strategy of knowing what you need per time, appointing the right people, putting the right people in place, that's exactly what you need to grow your economy. So it's not about having a law that will pull everybody together, or you have to oversee their budget and all of that. For me, it's beyond that, because the negatives are much more than the positives.
Right, but some argue that, central banks don't really have that much autonomy, really, that there's always some form of, political influence. We saw the Ways and Means issue with the last leadership of the central bank. They also don't want a central bank governor that want to contest for the presidency, at some point. So talk to me about, the powers around the central bank governor at this time. Does it need to be decentralized somewhat?
No, like I said earlier, see, if you look at other countries and see how, it's all about recruitment. Because if you recruit the right person, that's something we call, in leadership, you call public value proposition. Then look at individuals, look at their public value proposition. Are they people who have tendencies of becoming president tomorrow? See, central bank has to be headed by experts. I use experts in plural because it's not just a one-man thing. So it must have a very strong, robust board. So the board must have experts who understand economic dynamics, understand how to get your economy working. They must have credible records, people who can there are no spots in their CVs. So these are the kind of people you recruit. So the world is paying attention to corporate governance as against having, individuals who don't understand what it takes to be there. Yes, the ways and means, those are things that occurred in the past administration, and I can see that the leadership of the central bank now, you can't find, people with those kind of, those kind of records. And then who says that the person has to be a banker to be a central bank governor? You need experts who understand economic development, people who understand the economy and how the economics around running a nation. That's what you need. Those are the kind of people you need to head your central bank. So what I'm saying in essence is the board has to be strong. There has to be a robust board. So it's not a one-man thing. So it won't be a central bank where you're mentioning just one person's name. There has to be a central bank where when you talk about central bank, you're talking about a team of people who understand what it takes to run an economy.
All right, let's look at the battle against inflation at this time. We see, most central bankers in developed economies, they're already nearing their inflation targets at this time. And we've seen right here in Nigeria, the inflation keeps going up, but we're seeing some kind of slower pace of inflation in Nigeria. So talk to me about what the CBN has done so far in the first half to try and arrest inflation, and what you expect for the second half of 2024. Do you see more interest rate hikes? Are rates going to stay higher for much, much longer?
Now, for the meantime, I think what I see is the central bank still, the interest rate will still go up a bit more until you see, improvement or increase when it comes to development, when it comes to infrastructure development that will support productivity. So, looking at it, like I said in my initial illustration, is more of what the fiscal policy managers are doing, because the federal government needs to actually activate a whole lot of activities, interventions that will support the manufacturing sector, that will support alternative funding, alternative income for foreign exchange, because all these things are the things when you have your foreign exchange depreciating, it also adds to your inflation, because it actually adds a lot of cost to those who are importing. Like I said earlier, we are importing a whole lot, and that importation is coming at a very high cost, because we are still taking FX to import some of these things that we need. Basic commodities that we need are being imported. So that will also, things won't change immediately, but I think in the long run, if those interventions are taken care of, you can't have a development finance institution like the Nexim Bank. Their records should show that export has actually increased to a very large extent that is supporting the oil sector. Then the income coming from the oil sector, we need to actually, focus a bit more to find out how we're going to add value to whatever we're doing to our oil and gas, so that our income should, in foreign exchange, should come complete. So the production has to increase. So these are the things I'm talking about. So it has to be more of what the fiscal policy managers are doing than what the monetary policy managers are doing.
Looking at where we are right now with inflation, food inflation, and the currency at this time, in your mind, looking at the way the fiscal side is working and the monetary side is working, in your mind, when do you estimate that we can actually see notable improvement when it comes to inflation and food inflation?
Now, you see, when it comes to for it to come down to consumers walking into shops and see things, cheaper. Now, if an importer buys his or her goods with a higher exchange rate, those goods have to go off the shelf before they can import the next cycle. So it's from that next cycle, which will take at least 3-4 months, or let's say before the end of this second half, that's when we'll begin to see a lot of changes when it comes to prices. And again, like I said, if we continue to intervene when it comes to local production, that is very key. If we use our development finance institutions to support local production, that will help us a whole lot. And I'm paying attention to our development finance institutions, because they are liable to stakeholders, while commercial banks are liable to shareholders. So shareholders want profit, but the finance institutions, they want growth and development in a nation. So that they should support, they should be made robust, they should recapitalize most of our demand finance institutions and give them targets to make sure our MSMEs, our agri sector becomes very robust and then will become self-sufficient.
All right, I definitely hope that the second half of 2024 will see some kind of soft landing for the Naira and the economy in general. Thank you so much, Borno Kuku, investment and economic development expert. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at trade facilitation right here in Nigeria. That's our next conversation. Just stay with us. Welcome back. On to our next conversation now. We see trade facilitation is one way to help improve forex liquidity, which in turn supports the domestic currency. Free trade zones, we see they're remitted about 11 trillion naira to the Federation account as of October 2023, but some experts believe it could be more. Let's discuss the prospects for free trade areas in Nigeria. Joining me for this conversation is Dinesh Rathi, he's the CEO Lagos Free Zone. Join us via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic, great to have you. So definitely, there are a lot of prospects we see for the free trade area. Talk to me about how the free trade zone has contributed to trade facilitation in Nigeria and what can be done to improve benefits of these zones in Nigeria.
So let me begin by providing a brief background to the Lagos Free Zone. So we are a 850-hectare industrial development. It's a fully functional special economic zone located 65 kilometers east of Lagos in the Ibeju-Lekki axis. And we have been in operations for almost 12 years now. And out of the total area of 850 hectares, the first phase of 300 hectares is live and operational, out of which even 50% of that land is fully leased out or reserved. And our vision is to become the preferred industrial and logistics hub of West Africa by offering world-class infrastructure, facilities, and services. And we are the sponsors, project sponsors of Lekki Port. We work together with China Harbour, Lagos State Government, and Nigeria Ports Authority to put together the Lekki Port project, which is fully operational as well over the last 14 months. And this has added 1.2 million container capacity to our maritime industry. And we are well equipped as both the free zone and the port to handle high volume of international trade. And just a couple of facts, in the last 14 months of operations, we have been able to handle Nigeria's first transshipment vessel and also the largest vessel in Nigeria, which was a 14,000 TEU ship. And this ship plies every week to our port. In terms of what can be done to improve trade and facilitate trade in and out of Nigeria, I believe there are 3 or 4 factors which we as Lagos Free Zone and the Lekki Port combination offers, which is first is the seamless integration, because Lekki Port is situated inside our free zone. So Lekki Port is inside the Lagos Free Zone, which allows for seamless and efficient operations. The second is the easy access to world-class infrastructure, facilities, and services, which are very important for trade operators inside Lagos Free Zone. And then the third, which is the regulation, and which allows for setting up a one-stop shop. So Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority, which is our key regulator, works along with other agencies of federal government like the Customs Service, Nigeria Immigration Service, and DSS, Nigeria Police Force, to provide a one-stop shop facilities. NAFDAC as well is also there in our zone. And then the fourth and very important aspect is a 24/7 power and security, which helps people to operate without any kind of trouble. So all of this is helping them to operate in a very, very competitive way and in line with the global cost environment.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so definitely, I know a lot of businesses would like to actually do business, within these zones. Talk to me about entry, into free zones to actually do business there. How affordable is it? I've heard some complaints about the high cost of entry.
Well, people have to understand that, it's a one-stop shop. You get all the facilities, all the ingredients of operating a business are present there. So whether it is a warehousing facility, an office space, a housing facility, power, security, everything is there. So all of it does take a little bit of cost to operate. But then to operate in a very, very hassle-free manner, I believe the cost which gets paid is quite low. So, if you compare the cost-benefit analysis, I believe in the long run, it does pay off. And moreover, there are fiscal advantages of locating your business inside a free zone, which the federal government of Nigeria has been magnanimous enough to operate this framework over the last 30 plus years. And they have stood true to it. The one-stop shop, which is wherein all the agencies work in a very cohesive way to facilitate trade and commerce, also is another key factor why companies are looking for operating inside a free zone.
All right, we're talking about the Naira earlier on the show, and yes, it wasn't really a good performance for the first half of 2024. But talk to me about how currency volatility has impacted businesses in the free zones.
So all the free zones within Nigeria, they operate in the Nigerian context and are not really insulated from what's happening around us on the currency front. So there has been challenges on the cost management side. It has been difficult to predict cost, and therefore the planning just takes a beating. And for businesses that really depend on imported raw material, they are now facing increased cost of those materials. The second is the inflationary pressures, which this currency volatility has led to reduce consumer spend. And that means the production levels of the business operators inside the zones has actually come down. And of course, when you have these kind of environment with high inflation, where the consumer demand has kind of slowed down, the investment and financing aspect of putting up growth capital behind growing your production capacity and investing in newer assets also, slows down. So people have postponed these decisions. Despite that, we are very, very pleased that at least Lagos Free Zone, we are signing up new companies. We will be soon announcing some big names who have joined Lagos Free Zone as business operators. So despite all of that, we are trying our best to kind of position Lagos Free Zone and the Lekki Port combination as a silver bullet to some of these issues.
And definitely, we hope we get more exports out of these ports going forward. Thank you so much. It was great having you on the show, Mr. Dinesh Arathi, CEO, Lagos Free Zone. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, let's get a quick check on the market close. And that's for last week. That was the last trading week of June. And there you have it. We're back above that $100,000. $100,000. Why dollar is always in my head? 100,000 level. This was 0.32%. That's for the all-share index. And we see the equity cap 56.6 trillion. Let's look at the volume there traded. We see that was down about 19.8%, 2.65 billion units. That was traded, valued at 49 billion for the week. And definitely we know for the first half, the market is up, the all-share index up about 3%. So who knows what's going to happen next going into the second half of 2024. Let's look at the sectors there. Banking, insurance, oil and gas. Those were the ones in the green with a big move there for the oil and gas counter, 5.71%. 1.14%, that's for financial services, banking, insurance, big 3.33% gain for the week. So first trading day of July, first trading day of the second half, First trading day of the third quarter, that's today. We'll see how the market actually closes. We'll give you a summary of that later on. That's it from me on Business Morning. I'm Ladi Williams. I hand things over to the Sunrise Daily team.
Welcome back. Yes, indeed, Dr. Vincent Olatunji joins us. He's the National Commissioner and CEO, Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning.
Okay, so just before we go on, I need to just put this information out. We understand that a Nigerian Air Force helicopter carrying out anti-terrorism operations has reportedly crashed in Tami village in Gabi local government area of Kaduna State. So we're tracking that, and we'll get you more details as we get that. So, Doctor, well, I know you must have heard about this breach, data breach, but we understand that some investigation is going on. So what can you tell us about that now? What is the current position?
Thank you. I think I just need to lay the foundation to allay the fear of Nigerians. The way and manner we are moving everything online is just one of those things that may happen in any economy. It has happened in several other countries: Singapore, UK, Kenya, South Africa, Argentina, Chile, Italy, all over the world. The most important thing is to look at what next you have to do after such information must have happened. In fact, the one in India was for about 1.1 billion people revealing their personal information. And what did they do immediately after it happened? This is an alleged leak, which we have not really confirmed. And that's why what I said, that we are still investigating. We are working with NIPSI. In fact, we have extended our scope to other government data collecting entities: NIPSI, Immigrations, Population Commission, Road Safety. Because what happened, what was reported by Private Ministry was that they were able to have access to some name of some people, including myself. So the next thing to do was for us to launch an investigation, and we have started that. Yeah, they said they bought it, and those guys sell it. Yes, they said they bought it, and we need to carry out our information to ensure that yes, it was actually bought, and look at the source. I got to the hands of those they purchased such information from. So investigations are still going on. But we're working to ensure that. Have you been able to check out those websites? Because some of them. As a matter of fact, we have actually pulled out some websites. We suspended the domain registration of some of these verification platforms, and those of them that are bold enough to come forward to say, okay, we are doing illegal business, we have link with this organization or that organization, and we have gone through some of their... They came to you? No, some actually called. That they are doing illegal business? No. Nobody will come that they are doing illegal business. I didn't hear some who came that they do legal businesses in Nigeria. Okay. They have this license, they have these agreements and stuff like that, going through their data processing activities. Because what you do is to review their records of data processing activities, to look at, one, what really happened? Was there a breach? If yes, how did it happen? How many people, how many data subjects are we talking about here? And what is the impact on data subjects? These are things we need to thoroughly review to be able to get to the roots of the matter, for us to be able to take a final decision. I mean, we want to be able to talk about data protection here, which is why you are here, because you are in Paradigm Initiative. And this one, you say it's being investigated. They're accusing a particular website, but it's not the first time that we're hearing of a website that has owned up. In fact, the last one was selling at 200 Naira for each Nigerian's data. And there was an investigative report that came out on that one. Now, the issue is that with data protection, you're supposed to ensure that the more we move our activities online, the more protected we are. What's the status of that protection? Because if they're able to have access, I'm saying that the Paradigm Initiative have actually sent a pre-action notice to NIMSI, NDPC, NIS, FIRS, CBN, INEC, FRSC, and the Attorney General's office. But how are you protecting Nigerians' information if, at least now we've heard, 2 websites that do verification are able to get access to people's data? Now, there are procedures to all these things. For us in Nigeria, we don't have a data protection law stating what data controllers or data processors should do to ensure protection of our personal information, wherever they are. And that is why data controllers, data processors are held accountable for any data within their custody. And what they have to do, they are divided into two. There is the technical measure, looking at your cybersecurity architecture, the kinds of technical measures that we have put in place to ensure that any data with you is secure and there is no unauthorized access to your database. The second part is the organizational measure, looking at your laws, your policies, the capability of your staff to be able to collect, process, and share data in a secure and safe manner. These are the two parts that we are looking at. And when we are carrying out the evaluation, those are the things we look at. Your privacy policy. What did you even write your privacy policy? How did you describe yourself? What kind of data are you collecting? And that is where the law comes in.
That
there are
access,
some parameters.
sorry, we understand what the law says. We know about the act. We know about the commission that was created for it. But it is that access, that verification platforms, which a lot of us have to use from time to time. If you log out of your Facebook, you log out of your Instagram, for you to get back in, you need to verify. And these are all these platforms that are available. That access, what is your office doing to ensure that they don't have access to our data?
I think there are two different things. One, the social media platforms, the social media handles. There are some things, some processes you go through before you share your information, before you have access. That is different. The other one is data collecting entities. You're talking of NIMSI now for national identity. You are talking of Immigration Service for international passport. You are talking of Federal Inland Revenue Service for data for tax issues. You are talking of other organizations. NYC, for instance, for service, schools, and stuff. These are data collecting entities. Some of them, either data controllers or prisons, even banks, telcos. These are organizations that are supposed to put in place measures to ensure that our data with them is protected. For the social media platforms too, most of them are international in outlook and in services. There are some international measures that we need to put in place. And look, coming to Nigeria now, we now have our own local law, which you must obey as an international platform that people use for social engagement, for business and stuff like that. And that is why what I was saying, that we have a law that clearly specifies what you need to do, even in the area of cross-border transfer of data.
So when it comes to these agencies that have our information, how are they, because that's what this pre-action notice is about. So these agencies that have our information, how do you ensure that they're well organized and protected so that we're not vulnerable?
On the part of government, what government has done, one, is to have the law. Two, there are directives from government for them to obey the law. One, there was a circular from SGF as far back as 7th of November 2023, for all MDAs comply with the provision. How do you comply? What do you need to do? One, you put in place your privacy policy. Two, you appoint a data protection officer who oversees your data protection activities. Two, you put in place technical measures, which I mentioned before. Three, you put in place organizational measures, the caliber of people processing. In fact, as recent as last month, in fact, it's still ongoing, the commission and the ministry will launch a responsible data management training for all ministries, departments, agents, or government in Nigeria. And the target is to train 10,000. And one of the major challenges that some of them have, that they don't have qualified data protection officers who will definitely oversee the data protection authority activities. And that's part of what we are doing now, to train about 1,000 data protection officers in the first instance within the next 2 months, to ensure that we deploy them to all these ministries to guide them through what they need to do, what measures they need to put in place to ensure that the data of Nigerians with them is safe and secured. These are some of the things that we're already doing in place. And we are accountable to Nigerians, the commission, Nigeria Data Protection. We are accountable to Nigerians. And we are accountable to the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we cannot run away from the fact that there are some things we need to do. How do we do the next thing? And if there are alleged breaches, we cannot confirm until we have done our own due diligence and we confirm truly there are breaches. Then what do you need to do? If there are penalties to be issued, we issue penalties. If there are remedial actions to be taken, we take remedial actions. If there are people to be punished, we punish them. The laws are there, very clear. Well, we can't just take actions without doing our due diligence and thorough investigations.
Those agencies don't act as though they are accountable to Nigerians in number. A lot of them, they don't act like that. They act as though, look, they do what they have to do and you have no choice.
I refer to that as institutional arrogance. A lot of them are very, very arrogant, no doubt about that. But no matter who you are, if you are arrogant in the presence of the law can catch up with you. The good thing about the law on data protection in Nigeria is that, yes, we say fine, government will pay government. If you are fine, if you are MDA, Ministry or Department A of Government, if you have to pay, you pay government the same government money. Now, what we have in our law, that's part of what has made it very progressive, the fact that the CEO of any organization where there's a data breach, if you are found culpable, you may go to jail. We have the power to prosecute you. All these things are clear. So the issue of, I'm arrogant, I don't want to listen to it, it's not there. If it's there, you go to jail.
Has this ever happened before?
No, this is a new law.
Has anyone ever been prosecuted?
This is a new law, just signed last year, just 1 year
so
in Nigeria.
The last one that the FIJ did an investigation on was after then now. The one that they were selling our data for 200 naira per person. So who was held accountable in that one?
Just listen to me. If you want to prosecute anybody in Nigeria, you know the justice system. It takes time. Even investigations alone take time because you don't want to unnecessarily punish people that are not culpable with an offense. That's why in investigation you need to take your time, do thorough due diligence to ascertain that yes, an offense has been committed, and these are the penalties for this offense.
Dr. Latunji, are you telling us that it's going to take a long time for you to investigate this particular matter?
This week, we are still meeting with DPC as we speak.
The reason why, listen, the Foundation for Investigative Journalism did an investigation where they found a particular, I can't say the name, but they found one, also a verification website that was selling Nigerians information for 200 naira. The one that Paradigm Initiative are talking about is selling for 100 naira. The ones that were selling for 200 naira, was that investigation done from your office?
The ones that you are mentioning, I'm not aware. But the one that I'm aware of is that of Paradigm Initiative. In fact, as a matter of fact, no formal reports was made to us, but we heard. Immediately we took action. I've written to all these organizations, give us information on A, B, C, D, which has led to the investigation we are currently carrying on. And some of the verification platforms, they were observed that what we are saying in these organizations do appear to be compliant with the law. Immediately we wrote, and their domains have been shut down.
The ones that are said to be selling it for 100 naira?
I'm not sure of this one.
Which ones are shut down?
Some of the verification platforms.
Were they selling our data as well?
I wouldn't know.
Okay, but they just didn't meet up.
The requirements of the law in terms of data protection, we shut them down.
Why did it take you this long to know that they didn't meet the requirements of the law?
You have over 3 million companies in Nigeria involved in the area of data collection and what we're doing there. And how do you want to arrest all of them at the same time? Or know that all of them are not compliant.
That's why your agency is there.
Just give me 1 minute. How do you want to ensure that all of them are not compliant with the provisions of the law? And that is why we have put in place some measures. One, as a data controller and processor in Nigeria, register with the Commission, which has started already. Two, in fact, what we did last year was for you to file your annual data return. And even in designating those who will register with us, those who sign the annual report with us, we are in court for about 3 cases now that some lawyers took us to court. Say we don't even have the right to tell them to register with us. The system is complicated, and you take things as they come. And how do you want to pursue over 3 million organizations? But you may not even register, you may not comply for years. But the moment there's a data breach from your organization, you are caught, you pay the liability for these years.
Were you able to find out if they got your slip and that of the minister?
I heard, and it's part of what we are pursuing now. Where did they get it from? What is the source? And for what purpose? Is it for economic gain? Is it for just to embarrass the government or embarrass the office or whatever it is? We need to check and get to the root of the matter.
The purpose matters.
Yes.
What if it was for investigative purposes?
Yes, we know, because that will determine the level of penalty.
Even if they were doing an investigation, to actually verify the story.
No, find out. Then they will help us in investigating.
But they published the story, and doesn't that tell you why they were seeking the information?
You mean who?
Whichever agency, yeah. If they said, we got this, and now we're publishing it to prove that we actually got it, isn't it clear that that's why?
And that is why we took it off, to commence investigations immediately.
Did you sign the third party to try and see if they could buy the same thing?
I won't expose what we are doing in terms of investigations here. Investigations are all, even at the national level. And many government organizations are involved, not only the NAPC. And I will be saying what we are doing here.
I mean, we do have to move into our Lagos studio, but I want to be able to get your thoughts on the impact that this has on the Nigerian people, on security, on our economy? Just so people, I want to be able to hear from you what you think the problem is. Why is this so important that you do your job on?
Yeah, it's absolutely important because of so many things. One, security is there. If anybody has access to information, they can trace you, they can get in touch with you anytime. Even people you don't want to meet. Two, identity theft is there. If somebody has access to all this information about you, you can be, and that person can replace you. So say, okay, I am this fellow. Fraud, that can lead to access to your account, to your information and so on. So a lot of things, even they can embarrass you, they can do a lot of things. And in some cases, data breaches have even led to death. People say, oh, because of this, they said about me. But the case of a student in one of the universities in the East recently, and they published their marks on the notice board or something, because I think she had tried for so many years and she not be performing very well. She committed suicide. That is the extreme case that happened. Or somebody maybe publish your image that you've done this, which you know you didn't do. Some people may commit suicide. So it has so many, even health information too. Somebody that has HIV and is not willing to even reveal it, and somebody has gone to reveal it, it can lead to embarrassment. So many things.
So that means you also be clamping down even in health agencies too?
Health organizations, hotel and tourism, a lot of organizations. And that's why this job is, the mandate is huge. And we need everyone to work with us to ensure we achieve this mandate. Because if you talk of all the data controlling entities in Nigeria, all the data processors in Nigeria, it's huge. Look at banks alone. Look at telcos alone, with all the agents all over the country. Look at hospitals, look at hotels.
Well, let me ask you this about NIN, for instance. We know that there are several reports and several things out there that NIN appears as though it's perpetually active. Even if people have died, their NIN is still very active. So there are several recommendations concerning what should be done about such things. Should you just make sure at some point, raise your level of security, probably let some of these things expire really and truly? Several measures.
Ideally, part of the rights of a data subject is the right of erasure or right to be forgotten. If somebody is dead, and it depends on the sector now, there's going to be a data retention policy to say, okay, when your data is with us, we are no more doing business with you, for instance, we can retain your data for so number of years in case of legal issues now, if they come up. So, if the fellow is dead, we don't need your information anymore. Then there's a policy that will say, okay, for all dead people whose information are with us, we can retain their data for such and such and such number of years, just in case anything comes up. If their family come on to say, okay, we want the information about, for instance, a bank, that somebody has money in the bank, and the fellow, maybe he died in an accident or so, and the family is calling for, oh, that mother has an account with you. These are the things that we have been told, and we are coming for this. They have to go and look for that information to be able to act on whatever you request are. If the information is deleted immediately, how do you have access to that?
No, it doesn't
but the retention policy
it doesn't mean delete.
Yeah.
No. Not being active.
Yeah, if it's not active, that means they've not been working on it at all. If it's not active, then
it can be dormant.
If it's dormant, yeah, part of the policy to be okay. If your account is dormant for so number of years, we remove it from a database. It can be part of the policy.
When do we expect this report from you? I mean, this investigative report.
We are putting together something that we should be able to speak to the public within the next 2 weeks. Because as I said before, we are accountable to Nigerians. They have the right to ask for information. If something has happened, they have the right to ask, what have you done? Based on what we heard, based on what has happened. And we hold that duty of care to say, okay, this is what we have done. These are the outcome of our investigations, which we will reveal to the public, which is really important.
Ayo.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, Mr. Olatunji, one of the, perhaps, allow me to ask a rather base question, a very basic question. To anyone who is listening now, we've been talking about data privacy, data security, data protection. Some may not actually, honestly speaking, know what data is. So if you would define data, what would you define it as?
Yeah, what we're talking about here is personal data or personal information. And this is the only thing that could be used to identify you as a natural person. In this case, you are talking of your name, your telephone number, your email address, your house address, your health information, your biometric information. All these are your personal information, which anybody could use to identify you as a natural person. Simple and clear.
Okay.
That is just a very simple meaning of the personal data.
Now, it could be assumed that whenever anyone gives, because some of these information that you're talking about, which are personal data, in this age and time, you can't really get a good number of things done if you don't put all of these data out. I mean, you talked about the banks, you talked about the hospitals and all of that. Now, the expectation of the person giving this information out is that whoever he or she is giving it to would protect that data. So,
absolutely.
What then happens to their own responsibility to ensure that these things don't happen? What's the penalty for any organization that allows that kind of thing to happen?
As I said before, any data controller or data processor that has your data with them, they owe you that duty of care to ensure that they put in place measures for your data to be protected. And this duty of care, these measures they need to put in place are divided into, which I mentioned before, the technical part of it, which has to do with all their cybersecurity stuff, and the organization measure of which has to do with the law and the capability of staff that process such data. Now, if there is a data breach, it can be due to so many reasons. It can be phishing, it can be ransomware, it can be for economic gain, it can be by accident. Maybe you have put in place all these measures, yet there's still a data leak somewhere, which might be an accident, which you didn't know. And if you had put in place all these measures and it's reported to us, then we know that it was an accident. They will know how to treat it. So all of them are expected to put in place this, because it is even your right that data, that information with them is protected.
Mr. Lasiji, the question I'm asking, my apologies, the question that I'm asking is, what's the penalty for them? We know their responsibility. In the event that this happens, what's the penalty for them?
I was coming there. Now, what the law says is that the commission can issue penalties, can issue fines. The fine can range from a minimum of 10 million naira up to about 2% of your gross earning for the previous year. If you're a company and you earned 100 billion last year, depending on the severity of the breach, the impact and the number of data subjects affected, it can be as high as paying 2 billion naira as a penalty for such a breach. And it can also lead to the prosecution of the CEO of the organization. Because as CEO, you are held accountable, you are the head of the organization, unless you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you had put in all these measures and this came as a result of accident. If that does not happen, you are culpable and you can be prosecuted as a CEO. So the financial part of it, from 10 million up to about 2% of your gross earning for the previous year, or prosecution.
Well, Mr. Latiji, it would seem like the question Chamberlain asked the other time, when he was asking about, if these things happen and how long it took us this long to get to this point. It would seem like these things have been happening and the authorities, because I'm aware that there has been a cybercrime law in this country for as far back as 2015. Maybe a data protection, law hasn't been for so long. Maybe I'm not sure right now. But the fact that this has gone on for so long means that some people hadn't been doing the things that they were supposed to do. What's the process now to ensure that, first of all, those gaps are covered, and secondly, this doesn't happen again?
The major thing that we need to do is compliance. That's all. Compliance with the cybersecurity law, compliance with data protection law, and for all data collectors to do what is right for them to do, to ensure that data with them is protected. Yes, cybersecurity law, that one has to do with mainly security part of it, which has to be the technical part of it. And the data privacy law is the legal part of it, which are with both laws coming together now and working, all of us working at the same government, be able to achieve that. And as I said before, a memo has been issued by the SGF to all ministries, departments, and agents of government to comply with the provisions of the law. So any ministry, any parastatal that does not comply, if they are used, the CO will be taken up immediately.
But perhaps one of the issues here, Mr. Lasuji, is that a good number of organizations aren't even aware of how severe this particular issue we're talking about is. Case in point is a situation where it's relatively easy for some hacker somewhere, be it ethical or whichever kind of hacker, to get into the back end of any organization. We've had cases, we've heard of cases where banks' security access is almost vulnerable, such that a good number of people can just get in the back door. Someone told me once that someone was able to get to the back door of a particular bank, get details of people, use them for some nefarious activities or the other, told the banks, guys, these things are happening, and nothing happened, nothing was done. He went back there a number of other times, and these things still happen. So that's the reason I asked about whether or not the people who are supposed to be getting this job done are even aware in the first place of how vulnerable they are.
I would say some are aware and some are not. In fact, you'll be surprised that some very top people in some organizations don't even understand data protection. And that's why the issue of awareness is really key. It's really top on the agenda to ensure that we create awareness for the data controllers and processors to ensure that all their data processing activities are subjected to strict compliance with the provisions of the law, and for them to put in place adequate measures to ensure that this happens. But there are some that are really aware. In fact, the financial sector, in terms of compliance, they are doing about 49% because they understand the risk involved in it. It's only those who don't understand the risk and the loss to the organization. In fact, the reputation loss to the organization alone is huge. It can completely take your organization out of business if there's a major breach, and it is known that, yes, it was caused due to negligence or the fact that you are not compliant with the provisions of the law. So awareness is key and important to us.
All right, we'll look forward to what you have said, which should happen in 2 weeks, so we can get that information and find out what next, like you said. Yeah. And we hope it will be enough deterrent, if need be, when necessary. Absolutely. Dr. Vincent Olatunji, National Commissioner, CEO, Nigeria Data Protection Commission, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
We've got a couple of messages. This is from Oluwafemi Agbeloa, who's an IT specialist. He says about the bombing in Goza. We have too many idle road safety officials, VIO, and civil defense personnel chasing people that they use their seatbelts. You should use yours. Or serving as gatekeepers in offices. The federal government should harmonize, train, and send them to the field to tackle insecurity in Nigeria. Well,
probably not going to happen, but a point, though. I agree with you, Femi. We have this one here from Ubong James. He's talking about payments of depositors' money of the defunct Heritage Bank, which we had talked about here. He said, please, I want to bring to your notice that the NDIC has been telling falsehoods about payments of customers' money of the defunct Heritage Bank. Since the CBN revoked the license of Heritage Bank and asked NDIC to take over the liquidation of that bank and subsequent payments of customers' money, there have been propaganda by NDIC claiming to have paid Nigerians. Please let the world know that people are crying and all the numbers they gave for inquiries are not going. For instance, in Akwa Ibom, there were 2 branches of Heritage Bank with hundreds of customers. No one has been paid. Please help us, the ordinary citizens, and let the appropriate authorities know the travails we're going through. Thank you so much, Ubong James, for that.
We hope they heard that. So that is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Train Bellinoso. Goodbye.
I'm Kayla Magua. Have a great week ahead.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to July.
The following is a paid presentation by Shopex TV.
Tired of pans that scratch and stick or cookware that takes up valuable space in your kitchen? Introducing Shopex Gotham Hammered Copper Collection, the perfect cookware to upgrade your cooking experience. The Gotham Hammered Copper Collection features a super durable ultra non-stick surface. Eggs stick to other pans, but with the Hammered Copper Collection, they slide right out. Incredible! It's oven safe, up to 500 degrees. Any recipe can be made in these pans, and then it wipes clean with ease. Make mouth-watering jollof rice or even fluffy pounder with ease. because nothing sticks.
I needed a cook way to keep up with me. The Gotham Hamad collection has been a game changer. No more burnt meals or hours spent scrubbing pots.
You could be paying over $490,000 for a collection of pans that are not even non-stick. Call the number on your screen now and get it for just 364,950 Naira. If you order now, we will upgrade you to the Premier Kitchen Collection at no extra charge and also include all-in-one food processor that blends, grinds, chops, dices, pounds yam, and makes smoothies in seconds. Place your order now and we will deliver the entire collection for free. The following was a paid presentation from ShopX TV.
In further actualization of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR's Renewed Hope initiative in the housing sector, driven by architect Ahmed Dangiwa, the Honorable Minister of Housing Development, 1,000 families and businesses will be settled at Maitakobi Cottage, right in the 25-hectare Maitakobi Emirates project, sited within the 164 hectares Lekki Aviation Town. Maitakobi Emirates will provide affordable urban luxury homes for stakeholders in the transportation sector and beyond through a stress-free installment payment plan, covered under the Yagunda government-approved resettlement scheme with certificate of occupancy. Other facilities at the gated estate include good road network, efficient drainage system, top-notch security, including a 24-hour CCTV camera and power supply. Official flag off, July 2nd, 2024. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Venue, Lekki Aviation City, Lekki Ekpe Expressway, Ibeju, Lekki, Lagos. Guest of honor, Alhaji Dr. Musa